Hello, welcome back to Noviland. It's another beautiful day in paradise. Today I have a little story for you called How I Saved a Billionaire from Prison, Part 1. And this is a longer story, so we're not going to get it all in one video, but we'll get enough, and hopefully if you're interested, I'll be happy to share the rest. Back in 2020, 2020 was a very interesting year for pretty much everybody. Life had started out interesting, and I did a trip. Life was good. That was in the winter, of course, before everything shut down. And then a friend came to my place who was in need of some help and decided to stay with me for a few weeks. Well, this was the beginning of March of 2020. So this person stayed. Of course, everything shut down in March of 2020. And this person stayed until about April when she felt it was safe to go back home to deal with her personal challenges. And I had this thought. My thought was, yeah, I really liked having a roommate. I had been living alone for some time, and it was really nice having a roommate. I decided I wanted a roommate, one who actually paid rent, maybe with a few less personal challenges to deal with, but that's okay. We all have some of those. Uh, Earlier that year, I had sent a happy birthday letter, to my friend Kevin Trudeau, who had been in prison for 7 years, almost 7 years by that point. Something like that, 6 or 7 years. In any case, a lot of people send him letters on his birthday. The guy was very popular, had a lot of fan mail, and he had gone away for contempt of court. They actually gave him a 10-year sentence for contempt of court. Now, I'm not here to argue on this video whether you think it was legitimate or not. It doesn't matter. This is the person who taught me about taking personal responsibility for everything in my life and karma and so forth. So I felt like he had taken responsibility, and whether the reasons on the surface made any sense at all, that was his karma. He was there for a reason. Okay. Fast forward back to 2020, I had heard that a lot of prisoners were getting early release because of COVID. I found out he was one of them. I was excited, hoping he would get early release. And I had put it out there in that letter I'd sent him back in February on his birthday. Hey, if you ever need a place to stay when you come out, like he doesn't have a million friends all over the world. But that's okay. I happen to live in the same county his case was, so I figured there's always a slight chance. You never know. But I didn't take it really seriously. I just put it in the letter, you're always welcome to stay here. And of course, I meant it. He was always welcome to stay wherever I was, because he had helped my life in so many amazing ways. But that's okay. What I found out later is he actually had read all my letters, not just the one I sent him, but the one I sent him years before where I offered him the same thing. And perhaps they planted a seed, who knows, but he was aware of it. Later that year, it was July 1st, 2020, I get a phone call. This phone call was from one of his close friends, Dr. Tom Morter, who had been helping me out at the time, who was one of my mentors. And this was at a time where I was trying to create my first retreats. Well, my first retreat was supposed to be May 2020. That didn't quite happen. A lot of things had closed down, so I pivoted, instead of a bigger event, to smaller personal cabin in the woods type things that I figured wasn't going to close down and wasn't going to bother any state's social limit or whatever kind of crazy thing they had going on. In any case, so I started creating this retreat. In the meantime, I made the decision that I really want a roommate. Well, I had had a one-bedroom condo. It was about 850 square feet. Had a nice big living room area and a kitchen and a bedroom and a bathroom. And that was it. It was plenty big for me. And for about two people, it was good enough. And my friend who had been staying with me, well, she had been on the couch for 5 weeks. And I wanted to do a little better in case she or anyone came back. So I bought a bed and put it in the living room. This nice little alcove area that was kind of decorated nice with nature and trees. And it was nice. It wasn't the Ritz, but I thought it was pretty nice. Fast forward to Shortly after that, July 1st, 2020, I get a call from Dr. Tom. This call was very interesting. The call started out as like, "Are you alone?" "Yeah, I live alone." "Are you alone? This is private." Now I'm looking around the house, looking. Is there somebody in my house? There's nobody in my house. But nevertheless, I go in my bedroom. I'm closed the door. There's nobody around. It's the middle of a day, middle of the week. The neighbors aren't even around. Everyone's at work. I'm alone. And so I go, "Yes, Dr. Time, I'm completely alone. So what can I do for you?" "Well, we're trying to get Kevin out on home release, and we want it to be really secret because, he has enemies who are trying to keep him back in prison, and we don't really want the public to know. We certainly don't want the public to know where he's going, and we would like your help. Would it be possible if he stayed at your place since you happen to be in the same district that his case was?" Like, "Absolutely." "Well, we understand if you need some time to think about it." And I stopped him. I was like, "No, I don't need a minute to think about this. I'm 100% in. Wherever this goes, whatever is entailed with this, I'm in. I'm willing to help." This man had given me so much help. His trainings had changed my life. I had met him several times before. I consider him a friend. I didn't know if he actually knew me or knew my name, but that was okay. A lot of people, I guess, considered him a friend at that point just because you listen to so many hours of his audios and training. It's in your head and it's just like a friend. So I said, "I'm in." And he goes, "Great. We'll be in touch." "What's involved?" "We don't know. It could be a month or two he stays with you if it happens at all. It depends on the judges and the courts and everything, and we'll let you know." So a few weeks ago, I get a call from the Bureau of Prisons, and it was Kevin. It was Kevin calling from prison. Well, I didn't know, and I actually had to call him back. And so I get a hold of Kevin, and it was maybe like a minute call, and he was just trying to touch base to make sure it was all right. And it was kind of a surreal call. I'm like, wow, he's actually calling me from prison. This is pretty cool. So I ended up getting on his email list. He only had like 15 people maximum he's allowed to email, and he had to have donations to his commissary account just to email people back. So I felt honored that I was on his email list, and this was July 2020. Well, for months after that, it was sort of on and off. He wanted to get transferred to Saima, which I never knew who that was. I didn't know that was Her Holiness Saima, this high holy figure from India who happened to live in Florida. And he was trying to get transferred to Dr. Tom. And the courts and the Bureau of Prisons kept on saying, "No, that's too nice. There's too much involved in a transfer." And even though he was eligible, it was just one thing after the other. It's probably someone higher up said, "We don't really want this guy out." So anyways, fast forward to October 2020, I host my first retreat. It's a success. It was a great time. The vibe was high. Everyone's happy. I go home. Life is great. 24 hours later, I get an email from him saying, "The whole thing fell apart. They're keeping me here for a while. Thank you for your time. We will stay on my email list. I really appreciate what you did." And I think, okay, great. It didn't work out, but that was a fun little adventure. Fast forward to November of 2020, I was feeling a little out of sorts, disconnected, and I decided to take a weekend just for myself to reconnect, refocus, refocus on the world, connect to the universe. And I did this for 2 days. I was feeling great. And at the end of these 2 days, I said, "Universe, I have a big dream." I had already decided that Kentucky was where I wanted to build my dream, and I was still back in Chicago. And I go to the universe. I can see where I'm going, but there's the next step I can't see. There's a gap between where I'm at and where I want to go. Please present that next step to me. 24 hours later, I get a phone call from Kevin from prison. The call went, "I got a miracle. They changed their mind. I'm going to be there in 4 weeks." Great. 4 weeks? I'm here. I'm happy. I'll be here when you're ready. Everything will be ready. Everything will be perfect. Well, I had 4 weeks to clean like I never cleaned before. The Bureau of Prisons came out to my place. Uh, who knew that the Salvation Army and the Bureau of Prisons were actually the same thing? Apparently, there really is a militant wing of the Salvation Army. It's called the Bureau of Prisons. They are the same organization. I don't know why. I just know that is. They approved it. Everything was fine. 4 weeks later, Dr. Tom comes out. He's with another guy, Blaine Athorn, who had been one of my mentors. They take me to dinner. They're like, "Oh, thank you for helping us." There was maybe like 5 or 6 people outside of the Bureau of Prisons who knew where he was going to land, because we were trying to keep everything super secret at the time. And I'm like, "Oh, of course, of course. I'm happy to help." They took me to dinner, and then they were going to come to my place, inspect it, and he was supposed to come the next day. Well, between the parking lot and walking into my place, they looked down and they had the slow walk to my place. And I go, "What's happening?" And they go, "No, he's not coming tomorrow. They gave everybody in the prison COVID." I'm like, "What? He was in isolation for weeks." He goes, "Yeah, but they took him out and they put him somewhere else to give everyone in the prison COVID." I didn't know what happened. That was just what they were telling me. Well, during that 4 week time, I had been sent uh, 11 or 12 pints of the world's finest ice cream ever, which is like McConnell's ice cream in California. Don't even know if it still exists. Grass-fed, pasture-raised, beautiful ice cream. And I had like 11 pints of it that one of his assistants had shipped to me, so that when Kevin came out, he would have ice cream. Apparently that was the first thing he wanted when he got out, was real ice cream. Okay. So we're sitting in my kitchen, kind of a little down. Kevin calls, and the cell phone is in the middle of the table with all of us around, and he's explaining what happened. He goes, "No worries, I'll be there in 2 weeks. This is just a little delay. Everything is good." In the meantime, we're like, "Oh, we're very sorry, Kevin. Your ice cream is delicious, by the way, and we'll save enough of it for you when you get out." 2 weeks later, January 5th, 2021, he was actually released. His plane was late. He had to make a call to the Bureau of Prisons from the airport explaining why he was running late. He didn't have a cell phone. He was in prison sweats with a plane ticket. He had to go to the airport, be picked up, check in the halfway house before he could even come to me. He was still a prisoner. He was coming to my place on home release. He was not fully released. In this airport, he didn't have a cell phone, so he had to use the desk or whatever and make this call. And this woman was looking at him funny, and he goes, "Oh, don't worry, I'm only a white-collar criminal." So he got his laughs. Anyways, he gets to Chicago, checks in, gets to my place, 10 o'clock at night. I get a call when he's on the way to my place from Dr. Tom going, "We're on their way, and by the way, he probably doesn't look quite like you remember he looks. They wouldn't let anyone get a haircut the last year because of COVID, and so he might look a little different." Well, at 10 o'clock at night, they all come in and they're there. We have a little bit of ice cream and we're talking for a little bit. If you ever saw Independence Day, the original movie from the 90s, and they had Brent Spiner's character, this crazy scientist from Area 51 with the long gray hair, looking a little crazy. Well, that's what Kevin looked like when he got out. But he was smiling. I mean, he was happy to be anywhere other than prison, I'm sure. And, we had a couple hours of talking, and then Dr. Tom and the others all went to a hotel. Well, then it's about midnight, and he and I are looking at each other. I'm like, "Well, welcome to my place. Here's where you're going to stay. Here's everything that you need to know. I got to go to work the next day, so you'll just be here." And, he had an ankle monitor. He explained to me his whole situation, and it was a pretty amazing situation. There's much, much more to this story, and this is only part one of how Kevin, a man who had been a billionaire and had like 25 billion in sales, one of the most, a very popular person, one of the most best-selling authors ever. I think Natural Cures was on the best-selling list for 26 weeks, outsold Harry Potter the year it was out. So he had had massive success in a number of areas, started the Golf Channel in England. He was a pretty successful guy. And here was this guy in my living room, and I'm helping him out. I got to actually pay him back. It was amazing. So, very soon, I will give you part 2 of this amazing story, how I manifested a billionaire into my living room. Thank you all. I wish you were here. Have a wonderful day.